Normally, companies are tracking someone left, voluntary, non-voluntary, regrettable, non-regrettable. But we decided to, go further to have real trends.
There is something that could be considered unique in Poland's culture that may impact how HR is done.
But it also have this part of bad side, because as we are rather straight to the point, this constructive feedback can hurt US people, mostly concentrate on the good aspects and not the compliments. And it's very hard for them to take this, constructive feedback. And in Poland, you would rather hear constructive feedback from your boss.
But I also understand those people that say they prefer the office life, because working remotely could be a little bit isolating, right?
Looking at, for example, if you have the common engagement survey for around the globe, to see that in general, the results for Poland will be lower.
Why?
Are lower because...
What roles or skill sets are the hardest to hire in Poland right now?
What is funny right now, that a plumber might be earning more than me because there is not enough plumbers. Employees have cameras on, and you can observe the sentiment on their faces, like how they react to, any announcements that appear during those type of town hall. Some of those silly questions are no longer going to me directly, because employees can, just ask them to our lovely little assistant.
You are making everyone scary now in HR.
Why scary?
There's a bot already answering questions. Oh, my job is going down the drain. Hello, Dorota. How are you feeling today?
Hello, I'm great. It's sunny today, so lots of energy.
I can see on your background, yes, the sun coming through. Thank you for accepting this invitation and to be willing to be part of the show today. So you are an HR business partner at a company called DataRocks, and you present yourself as an experienced HR professional. You are in a unique position that could help everyone to understand if there are differences in applying HR in a Polish environment, or if there are cultural differences that needs to be taken into consideration when implementing HR projects or HR initiatives in Poland. But you tell me during our conversation if that's the reality or not. What's happening in your life right now?
Well, around a year ago, I started exciting journey of joining DataRocks as the first HR rep in the agency history. So, the company was operating for around 10 years.
10 years and you are the first HR person, Dorota?
Yeah.
Wow. How have they survived?
I don't know that, but right now I'm sure that the past year must been, striving and, just blooming.
Sure, yeah.
With me on board. But as you can imagine, I describe it as an exciting journey, but because there are a variety of different things that I'm taking care of currently. Of course, it's not something that, they just have anything and I'm just, building everything from the ground up, because there were some baseline policies or, baseline programs in HR, but, without a proper care, without someone who you will, just nurture them, evaluate if they really make sense for the company that we are, and, really make them suit what is needed to, make the business the best.
Just in Poland, or you have also a workforce outside Poland? No.
In current company, it's only Poland. But as you mentioned in my previous experience, I had employees around the globe.
Okay, cool. So I know that I have an idea that the current company also works with data, marketing data. So data is also important in HR. How do you currently use in a data company HR data to influence decisions or to track progress on projects? Is it also used internally?
Yes, of course it is.
Okay.
And I would say I have the most robust attrition tracking spreadsheet in the current company.
You built it?
Because, I'm currently working on that, to be honest. And, normally companies only, track how many, employees leave and what is the attrition rate. But we are trying to find, this kind of, let's say, magic formula where are our employees living, and all the little aspects, what could influence their decisions. So we have like, I don't know, 15 perhaps different aspects that we are tracking currently. And I'm trying to trying to better understand why our employees leave if they do. So it's, I would say it's pretty significant. And, normally companies are tracking someone left, voluntary, non-voluntary, regrettable, non-regrettable. But we decided to, go further to have real trends based on what is really happening in our agency.
Can you share some examples for us to know or understand how further do you go? So besides those regrettable, voluntary, etc.
Okay. So, if you have HRS system, perhaps you also can add information about the age. But we didn't have HRS system, so we're trying to add age to that. Also, well, the person that was conducting recruitment reviews. So we know like who recruited this specific employee, and if we can find any pattern, like who's best in recruitment, let's say. We also add to that the source of a candidate to find also if it has any influence on the attrition. Because company used to use 2 recruitment agencies before I joined. So like checking the quality of the candidates they send us, and the retention of the candidates from each agency can be also interesting trend to evaluate if we really find valuable cooperation with this recruitment agency, right? Also, the main argument for leaving the company, it's a field that is closed answer. So there are like 10 reasons that we mapped are the most common ones to find the trends. What is the most common reason for leaving, or aspects like where the person is living, like things like if they are going in-house instead of going to another agency, or if they change to another agency, if it's bigger agency, or smaller agency, and they would like to have more influence, and so on and so on, like to make sure that we track all the potential aspects that really make sense. We even decided to check, because pre-pandemic, some of the Warsaw employees were working on site from the Warsaw office. So we even try to observe if it affected anyhow the workforce that we have. If someone was, like pre-pandemic hire, and they were thinking of, like working in a hybrid mode, but we are fully remote, as you can see. And if it affected our employees that we have had back them in anyhow. So those are, some of the examples.
What is the most interesting insight that you found with that data so far?
What is the most? Oh, and of course, like there is also this field of team leader, like from which team it was, but I guess like it.
Like to see if there's a pattern on a boss, a manager that fires lots of people.
Yeah, of course.
I hope that's not the most interesting insight.
No, that's not. Well, hard to say honestly at that point, because we are still gathering the data. What I find interesting for now, that there was a huge group of employees hired last year and the year before that were not happy with the work model. So right now, as we are speaking with candidates, I always check if the candidate is aware of how, like working remotely is, and that, like there is no possibility to have, like this hybrid type of working. And, like for me, it was surprising finding, because I really admire working remotely, and to, like for some people to, like just miss this personal touch with employees, I can totally get it, but it was surprising because we have all the social small events that we can do as remote company. But, like for some, it's just not enough, because it's not face to face the way that they are used to in their previous companies.
So I also work remote, but I can see both things, Dorota. So I understand why people like remote, but I also understand those people that say they prefer the office life. Because working remotely could be a little bit isolating, right? It's every day, all day in front of a computer, no one around you for you to speak, no water cooler conversations. There are some people that look at life and probably they think that people they know, friends, girlfriends, whatever, all those relationships started from work relations, right? Because that's the people that are with you every day. So then when you go back to this remote kind of environment, seems like that part of your life stops unless you find ways to do that after work, right? So I totally get it. The best thing would be to find people that have that sweet spot between working remotely or not, that really know how to adapt their lives and their social part of their lives to that, which we are all getting to know and to learn nowadays. You also said something that I wanted to comment, but I didn't interrupt you at the time, which was you mentioned that you also track the data from the companies, the recruitment companies, if the candidates stay or not. You were saying that, and I was listening, and I was thinking, okay, this is a good thing indeed to track because, and I don't want to sound like a bad person with what I'm going to say now, but so I had some experiences, and I'm not sure how global this is, or if this happens in Poland or not for it to be tracking, but I think there are some companies that once the candidates pass through the guarantee period or the rebate period, etc., once the company doesn't need to give back if the candidate leaves, don't need to give the money back or open a new process, they just use the candidate and send it to another company because they will then charge their fee to another client and another client and another client. Okay, and that could be visible in the data.
Well, I haven't observed it this way. We're also mostly cooperating with more of a, let's say, boutique recruitment agencies. Like to have a proper size of recruitment agencies and their fees to our size and our possibilities. Like we don't work with any of those, like huge brands that you can perhaps think of. Perhaps if I would give you the names of the recruitment agencies that we are working with, you perhaps never heard of them.
This happens in IT a lot. IT, every client wants the same profile. So the profiles, it's this client, that client, etc. So they may badly rotate candidates through all those clients.
I really have my fingers crossed that it's not the case for the recruitment agencies that I cooperate with. I haven't heard any signals from like my employees that they are reaching out after the guarantee period. But I can't be sure. You never know, right?
What I would really want to know, do you think there is something that could be considered unique in Poland's culture that may impact how HR is done? In general, we can start in general.
Well, like working across the globe with different companies, I could say that what is the most visible from my perspective is how Poles concentrate on being better, and it is great thing that like employees feel so engaged, and I would say Poles also are rather on the loyal side. If you, for example, check the retention rates from like each of the countries, for example, for the European Union or so on. But it also have this part of bad side because as we are rather straight to the point, this constructive feedback can hurt. And I have this experience, like working for the company from the US, and they had hard time trying to understand why Poles are so rude. But in fact, they weren't rude. They just were, like giving the points how the company can improve, how the product can improve, and how can we make it better. While like from my observation at least, US people mostly concentrate on the good aspects and not the compliments, and it's very hard for them to take this, constructive feedback. And in Poland, you would rather hear constructive feedback from your boss than a compliment. And there is a saying popular in Poland that if your boss is not giving you any constructive feedback, that means everything is fine and you should be happy with your work and how you do it.
When you say constructive feedback, so it's like the negative part, but in a way that you should improve.
Yeah. And it can be both, because sometimes, if someone is not, well, let's say educated how to give feedback, they only concentrate on the negative part without, directly showing you how to improve, for example.
Okay.
So if you are rather used to work with the people concentrating on the positive part, it can be tough, right? Because especially I can see it in younger generations, cooperating with older managers, that they are like, where is my thank you? Where is my, good job, great job,
Mhm.
part of thing. And it can be demotivating for some, right? If you only get, okay, but you should do this, and that.
Improve this, improve that.
Yeah. And like, okay, but can you say to me like what I did, right?
If no one is complaining that everything is right, then everything is right.
Yeah. I would say like this is the biggest thing that I saw. And also, if they are providing this type of feedback, they just give it straightforward. So I remember the situation when I was speaking with my manager from the US, and I just passed the feedback that I got from one of the engineering managers from Poland, just straight as I got it. And she was like, "You let the employees speak to yourself like this?"
Mm.
That's fine, like they just want to, like they just want to our company to improve it. But it is so rude.
In your opinion, Dorota, what do you think are the roots of that cultural differences?
I was trying to understand that, and we even tried to do, like a little presentation for our Western colleagues. I guess like it is connected with our history as a country, and like in general the political situation. I also found some articles that it might be also connected with the weather, because
The weather.
yeah, because like half of the year it's gray and so on, so it gives you more of a negative tones. All the funny theories on the internet. Um, but it's interesting. I would say rather I believe in the part about the history, and like how we were taught when we were young, and what we learned from the history of our country, of our ancestors. Maybe it's also connected with like Poland is growing economy, and um, if we are, like ourselves looking at, like growing economy like the US, of course they are more happy because their lives are better, right? Maybe it's also part of that, but I'm not sure. I'm just guessing.
I know it's a difficult question. I just wanted to
Yeah.
hear your personal opinion or personal view. And considering these cultural changes that you mentioned, so how would you assess or improve employee engagement specifically in a Polish context? Would there be something different than from other countries?
Yeah, and it's also interesting, and it's also connected with the like the scale of grayness that we see through our
Mhm.
windows. And it is interesting to observe, yeah, like looking at, for example, if you have the common engagement survey for around the globe, to see that in general the results for Poland will be lower, but
Why?
they are lower because I don't see like Polish person like to choose maximum on the scale, even if they are super excited and everything is good. It's something in our default setting that if you have a scale from 1 to 5 and you love your job, everything is perfect, you would choose 4.
Four?
Yeah, 4 out of 5.
Ah, five. Okay. No. Ah, yeah, because in my mind, engagement or NPS is always 10. So that's why I was four only. What's happening here?
Well, like for example, we were using some lattice Gallup surveys globally,
Yes.
and there's the scale from 1 to 5,
1 to 5. 1 to
and
5.
like if someone had like in general it's good, I don't have anything to add, and I just don't feel super excited, everything is fine, they would just free. Yeah, so from like from someone outside of the country, it was like, oh, Dorota, people in your country are so sad. Like, what can we do about that? I'm like, it is a default setting.
Maybe it ties with what you said before about the constructive feedback. So there's always room for improvement.
Exactly. And what's funny, I also get it in, for example, when I do candidate experience survey with the candidates that reject, I got some of the comments like they give me in ENPS 8 because there's always fuel for improvement. And like, okay.
So I'm just hearing this for the first time, right? But it sounds from a certain perspective a good thing, because if you put yourself in a position or you look at your surroundings in a way that everything is perfect, probably there's no drive to make it better. But if there is always that one thing that needs to be fixed, needs to be improved, and it's never like the maximum rate or highest or perfect 10, etc., maybe that's a good thing, because that will engage perpetual or continuous improvement desire, right?
I guess. And it's also connected with the resilience that I observe in Poles. That, like we had lots of different experiences in our past as citizens of this lovely country. So I believe like resilience is also one of the aspects. And I guess like this resilience also show us that it always can be better. So here is the situation. Here is something new that happened. Okay, let's take it, but we can always make it better.
You present yourself as a business partner, HR business partner. How do you balance being a strategic partner to the business with the need to handle all the operational HR tasks that I assume that you are also responsible for?
I guess it's the matter of how to properly plan everything and what resources can you use. So, as I mentioned before, I don't do recruitment by myself. We have a recruitment agency, and I'm very happy for that. In Poland, also, it's pretty popular that if you have a small company of our size, you usually cooperate with payroll agency. So, also, I don't, don't get my hands dirty in the payroll aspects. It's taken care of. In my current company, also I have office manager to support me in the aspects like contracts, annexes, and things like that. So I take care of, like planning the growth of the employees, making sure that their salaries grow with the, growth of their skills, competencies, and so on. But when, like there is an annex to be signed, I just let the office manager do the job. And I would say, like, also what I find pretty important is utilization of modern tools. So, as you can imagine, one of the first things that I thought of is to implement HRS system to, like, just get rid of as many manual tasks that were there. So the more things can be automated, the better.
What's your view on career development expectations in the Polish market, and if you compare with other regions that you work with? Do people aspire differently in careers?
That's interesting. Well, I don't think that the aspiration themselves differ so much. I guess, like, we all as people would like to earn more.
I think that's global. I think that's global.
I think that's global. Yeah. What is interesting that in tech, not everyone wants to be a manager. I guess like it is something that is generational change, not exactly so much about the country, right? So we as HR people need to be prepared that we have this managerial path for those ICs that want to go into that path, but at the same time, we have to be prepared with this I grow as I see to expert or
Technical career, right?
the technical career role. And also, like it's not only in directly tech roles like engineering, but I can observe that also in the marketing sphere that I'm working currently. That, like just not everyone wants to be a manager. And it's something that for this older generation is like, but why not? You would have more power. But people don't want that power. Like I can observe that perhaps you too in Portugal, that people want to earn more, but not exactly to have more visibility towards, like higher roles.
I guess the proper term, Dorota, is accountability. People want to earn more, but they don't want the accountability. But I guess I need to quote here Spider-Man, which great powers come great responsibilities, which is not Spider-Man, it's Voltaire. I learned this recently. It's not Spider-Man, it's from Voltaire. But that's the fact, right? In order for you to earn more, there needs to be more responsibilities.
Or just more value in your work. And it also can be connected with, like how can you grow your career to deliver more value to the company. But this value doesn't exactly have to be connected with more accountability themselves. It's the matter of how you plan it and how huge is your company too.
Yes, could be. You mentioned that you have the help of the agencies for recruitment, but still, I would like to ask you, in terms of recruitment KPIs, what do you think are the most meaningful in Polish context? Anything specific?
I guess it will be common for other countries as well, because for sure, like what I think is really important is to track if you have a new hire, how long they stay. So to check, like this early attrition rates, and to properly observe that, the quality of hires based on the source that you get the candidates. Yeah, I guess those might be the most important ones, I guess. Because like for example in Poland we don't check like this D&I statistics, because they doesn't make so much sense in the context.
You mean DEI? Diversity,
Yeah.
Okay, DEI. You are, that's a more US kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And what is interesting, I even tried while working for the company in the HQ in the US, I tried to track it. But honestly, like those can't be the same KPIs that they have in the US, because, for example, in Poland we don't have so many like Latino people or Afro-American. What is interesting that we have a huge Vietnamese community in Warsaw. It is the biggest one in Poland, but still I don't observe those candidates in my recruitment processes. We also have a huge community of Chinese, for example. But again, I just don't see those candidates in tech roles or marketing roles.
Yes.
They might have taken some another career. So out of that, we have also a huge community of Ukrainians and Belarusians and Russians. And we can see those hires, right, in our companies. Yeah. But it's interesting that, like it's not that diverse, thinking of a talent pool. So you would really need to make special effort to find those people to, like just choose the stats. So you don't concentrate so much on the talent to have more of a diverse talent pool, if you would like to.
So the Russians and the Belarus people, I understand.
And Ukraine.
Those first two I understand because of the proximity, and then Ukraine also proximity, and then the war. We see that movement in many countries. What are the explanations for having that big workforce of Vietnamese and Chinese in Poland?
Honestly, well, I was trying to browse the web and I saw something. I'm not a historical expert of any kind, but I saw that after the destroyment of the German wall, that was
the Berlin Wall,
that some of the Vietnamese people moved to Warsaw, and now there is like a third generation of Vietnamese people coming to Warsaw. I don't know why they chose Warsaw exactly, because maybe because there was a huge marketplace on this national stadium. I don't know if you saw the photos of that, or any videos. It was like huge marketplace with lots of people selling like everything. But I don't know if it has anything to do with that, because for example in Wrocław there is a huge community of Korean people, but it is because Korean companies are there, right? As for Warsaw, we don't have Vietnamese companies here.
What roles or skill sets are the hardest to hire in Poland right now?
Well, tech is currently not that much of a problem due to the economical change. And perhaps you heard of that. But Poland used to be this cheaper workforce. So the companies from the US or other countries were opening SSC, BPO, or just engineering offices within Poland. But currently, as Poland starts to be more pricey, those companies decided to move to less expensive markets like, for example, Romania, Bulgaria, coming back to India, and so on. So right now, I would say the IT people have hard time in Poland, and there is a lot of IT talent to harvest if you're trying to find really qualified people, because Polish engineers are really qualified. But what we can observe right now on the market, that for my generation and around my generation, it was really popular that if you want to earn high money, you need to go to university. And what is funny right now, that a plumber might be earning more than me because there is not enough plumbers, because not, like too much people went to universities, and all those, typical blue collars jobs are currently, like hard to
In demand.
yeah, because like those people that were working in those fields are currently getting older and older. Newer generations were told that go to university, you will have like a clean and good money job. And also, I guess it's perhaps in every country, like medical jobs are also are the fields that not many youngsters want to go. So it is interesting to observe how the average age of a doctor or nursery is, getting higher and higher. So if I would be an immigrant and I would have medical degree, I would come to Poland.
Because you lack professionals, or by training, or your professionals are leaving for other countries?
I guess that they are leaving, but also there is not much interest in this field in younger people, because they know that it is a hard job. And, like it's so much easier to go for, I don't know, psychological studies, philology studies, management studies, than to go to medical studies.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like knowing, I guess, I don't know, but the atmosphere in this type of job is, like not the one that I would imagine Gen Z would like to have.
I guess in Gen Z, like every generation, there will be people that will still be attracted to those challenges of being doctors, medics, etc., and they have to study a lot. But
I keep my fingers crossed that like more of young people will go into this field, because if not, I don't know what would happen to our like medical system. And
I think the thing is, Dorota, it's a challenge, but in the end, could be worthy if the salaries compensate all that effort and investment of time, etc. But maybe that's not the case. You spend 10 years or more to be trained as a doctor, and then the salary is lower than a plumber, for example. Would that be the case?
that could be the case. And, of course, also what is perhaps common for medical specialization is that long working hours, and having to, like work really hard, have a huge amount of responsibility over people's life. And then you look at your salary.
The accountability again, the accountability.
Yeah, yeah. So I know, like maybe it's not the answer that you hoped for, but it's interesting for me to observe that I remember, like a few years ago, I would say like, oh, engineers, and I would like name what fields in engineering are hard to find in the market. But currently, looking that even some of the engineers start to joke that okay, so now there is a problem in IT. Maybe it's better to go to be a plumber, or I don't know, repair shoes,
Right.
or anything like that. I'm like, whoa, what is happening right now?
So you already see those changes happening. So how, in general, how HR has changed since you started your career, and where do you see it heading in, let's say, the next decade?
when I started, I guess like the HR was mostly a domain of huge companies. When I started, it was really hard for a new person to start. And I remember that it was typical career that you had to start with recruitment, perhaps in a recruitment agency, to gain some experience to be, potentially interesting asset for those bigger companies that were looking for candidates with experience. Now I'm surprised that even some of those like huge companies are proposing internship on HRBP role, which for me sounds pretty funny because I was taught that to be HRBP you have to have generalistic experience, have your experience also in other fields, understand the business, and it's and it's interesting, like that they offer, like for fresh graduates, this type of internships, and it's just interesting to observe. But maybe it's about also inflation of the titles that happens. That I don't know if it's common for other countries, but companies trying to sell not really funny job, they try to name it something else to have more candidates and to have a good hire.
Can you give us an example to understand?
Yeah. So, for example, I can observe my fellow colleagues named HRBPs, but for example, being responsible for payroll or being responsible for recruitment, we can observe this type of adverts on job ads, like in Poland, which is pretty scary to me because at the end of the day, how can you say like, who are you contacting, who are you speaking with, if the job title doesn't say what the person is doing, right? But I guess again it's connected with those not so funny jobs and trying to sell them to candidates. I guess that in 10 years, as you asked me, HR will be more connected with perhaps being more specialized in the bigger companies. I can observe, for example, that there start to appear something like HR project managers trying to help HR team to be more productive and to really concentrate on the projects to bring value and don't have everything happening at the same time, which can be crazy. And I'm also curious how it will be with AI, if some of the operations jobs that we started with our conversation will just be mostly for some AI agents, and we as HR population will concentrate on being more strategic, more closer to business, and not just spending so much time on all those silly little tasks that perhaps HR in every company is currently still doing.
That's a good topic. So how do you think technology, AI, analytics, HR analytics specifically, will change the HR function?
I guess that still there is a huge work to do because, as I said, HR used to be for bigger companies. So right now I can still see that even in medium-sized companies, many of the processes and policies are on paper. So first of all, we need to computerize it all, and then go a step farther and then farther to being able to automatize it and to have some AI that would help us in it. From this perspective, I guess that right now, even right now, in the HRS system that I'm using, it can analyze the sentiment of the answers of the employees and label it for the most important topics, for example.
When they apply or on their Slack conversations?
Based on the engagement survey results.
Oh, engagement survey. Yeah.
You have this overview made by an AI. So for me, it's really great to be able to brainstorm even right now when AI is still fresh, how I interpret the results versus how the results are interpreted by AI. And I don't analyze the sentiment on our communication channel.
Mhm.
I know it is also possible.
It's possible, but it's not like there's a secret thing that we are analyzing. No, it's for example a Slack app that you install, and that Slack app every week pops up a question for employees, and they just answer yes or no. They could comment, etc. And then you engage periodically. You like post check periodically, and then if you also allow, the platform has access to the public channels, and it can analyze the sentiment in the same way. So if
Yeah.
people are saying, "Oh, we as a company we are great, hey, great effort, I love what you're saying, etc." There's some news announced, and everyone goes to the Slack channel. They put emojis. They say, "Great work." The sentiment is positive,
Yeah, but usually, like this bad sentiment messages would rather perhaps appear on this private channel. So I'm not sure if.
or not, or not. Dorota. Imagine that the sentiment is so bad that people complain publicly, right? So the platform would be able to capture that and show that on charts. If engagement is that bad, you cross that threshold where people will be public with whatever is happening on their minds, right? Yeah.
I guess they would, but like from this perspective, you working with those people would be aware of that, because like I believe like a huge part of my job is try to sense the sentiment before it goes to this boiling pot. Like have this feeling before, right? So properly build tools for managers and train them properly, so they can feel the vibe within their team. With speaking with them, and also with observing how they react. It's so much information when you have this all hands on deck meeting, and employees have cameras on, and you can observe the sentiment on their faces, like how they react to any announcements that appear during those type of town hall meetings. Yeah, but regarding AI, I also think that one of the aspects is, right now I can see that there are more and more AI bots that are connected with your HRS, and that you can also upload them policies and procedures you have within your HR department, and they can also be connected with Slack. So some of those silly questions are no longer going to me directly, because employees can, like just ask them to our lovely little assistant.
Oh, you are making everyone scary now in HR.
Why scary?
There's a bot already answering questions. Oh, my job is going down the drain.
No, it's. I would say those are more of silly questions. So again, like we can concentrate on the more meaningful aspects, and to truly, like be with a business. Questions like, oh, so I want to buy new glasses. Where I can find information about, reimbursement, or how many PTO days I have left.
And then redirects to the policy, or it just reads the policy and answers. Wow, cool.
Reads the policy and then answers, or even it can answer questions like, is, for example, Philip on vacation today?
And it says yes or no, depending. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And it can even give you the dates when Philip is on vacation or on PTO, or other things. So
in the end, then it appears the message saying, "Are you happy with this answer?" And the person may say no, and it writes on, "I want to speak with Dorota," and then you need to jump in, right? Like we do when we are like reaching out for customer service and we want to speak with a real person. We say, "No, I want to speak with a real person," and then and then comes another bot that is better well trained to look like a real person, right? Or not?
No. It's again, for me, it's about optimization of the work, and to give a value where the value really can make changes, and can really nurture the business, be great impact for the company. And when it's only what is the invoice data for the company, to have it better addressed and not to waste time on those queries. I'd better concentrate on like how plan the agency for the future, what competencies we need for the future, for the future, what like goals we would like to have for this year, how to have everyone on board with them. Then to answer, like how much can I have reimbursement for my glasses.
What are the 3 skills that every HR professional should develop right now? And I forbid every guest to say AI. So you need to think of the other 3.
Well, I guess that one of the crucial things in the current era or in any era is critical thinking. To be able to analyze the data you have and like really be critical about the sources and to take the most of what is valuable in that. Also, it comes with all of the fake news that are flying on the internet, and to make sure that you are just using what really is right. So it's not only for HR, but for every single person, I believe. For HR, I believe like we can't escape from being more analytical. It's not only, I guess, like for now about HR, it's not only about being people person, but also being able to read the data and to observe the trends in that data and to propose programs, projects that will address the data. It's like I remember the days when we were collecting data like crazy, but we weren't using them, right?
No one was
Everyone
looking.
remembers. Yeah, like I have a great database, but what you do with those data, I don't know yet. But I have a great database. So I would say like those days are long ago.
You now send the data to ChatGPT and he finds the patterns and the trends.
Yeah, but like still you have to be with this critical thinking and analytical mindset to really point the ChatGPT what makes sense, and if really those reasoning that ChatGPT gave you based on this data make sense, because ChatGPT doesn't have all the context of your company or any other thing. So ChatGPT just have this, like let's say raw Excel file that only shows small, tiny little piece of all the environment.
You sound like you really tried. You sent something to ChatGPT and it gave you output, and you are describing what ChatGPT gave you. Because I never tried to use ChatGPT to analyze a spreadsheet, so I'm surprised that you
Okay.
tried.
Yeah, of course. So, for example, we have Gemini because we use Google Workspace. So, Gemini is within your workspace. So, for example, if I have in Excel spreadsheet the results of engagement survey, they are in a closed environment of our company domain, and Gemini can give you its own observation based on that. Or, for example, some of my team leaders are checking the sentiment of the answers in performance reviews. Like try to brainstorm a bit with Gemini. So they have their own understanding after reading and after conversation with the employee, but they want to, like have this second eyes looking at that. So they also, like, okay, so what else can you tell me based on this file? Like how the employee feel? Do you find any, like thing that I should be cautious about? Based on how the employee says about this and that, and can you just analyze what can you find in this in this data?
This is interesting insight. So what kind of prompts do you send to Gemini? You just drop the file and tell me whatever, or do you guide it like tell me the sentiment? What else?
Well, it depends honestly what you need. So for example, you can start with please summarize the main findings in the file. And then you can move forward with, like some of the trends that you already observed to check if it makes sense from the statistical perspective, if Gemini also can observe those trends. What is really nice, Gemini can also help you with writing Excel formulas. So if you find a trend, Gemini can create lovely Excel formula that you no longer have to write manually, and you can just put it back to the spreadsheet to continue your analysis. Of course, as I say, I only use it as support to, like, for example, create some formulas to check the sentiment, to check if I will have common understanding of the data, or maybe, the Gemini will find some more interesting findings, something else. And it's about, starting the conversation for me, starting the conversation broadly, and then trying to dive deeper into the aspects that I found, interesting in this data set, trying to, add this additional layer, and maybe, just maybe, Gemini will find something that I just haven't thought of to,
Sure.
Combine together.
And then you use the critical thinking skill that you were mentioning to take a look at the results and see if they make sense or not. And I told, let's not go to AI, and we end up talking about how to use AI. But you still owe me 2 more skills to develop right now, besides critical thinking, using Gemini. What else?
Yeah, I was also mentioning one more. I don't remember right now. So I also said that HR person has to be data driven and being able to analyze the data, and that's how we ended up with this Gemini, that it can support, but still HR person needs to be able to analyze the data. And I still think that, as I mentioned before, it's not only about relations, empathy, and so on, but also about, seeing the bigger picture, being able to connect the dots and see the trends. I think for the modern HR person, this is super crucial, like really, really crucial. And what I would add to that is, well, again, I'm speaking from the HR business partner perspective. So from my perspective, also another important fact is to have the skills to develop the managers, because the days are long gone that we just had those mid-rate managers that were just forward managers and that don't give support to employees. We need to properly be able to set the standard higher, to weaponize managers with tools, how to properly give compliments. From Polish perspective, it's really important to learn managers how to give compliments. That may be funny for some listeners, but it is really the case, something that I'm working on. But also, how to help your employees grow, how to plan the career paths, work together with managers on all the aspects, so that they will have more ownership on their team, and that we as HR people would feel, just more secure that the managers really know how to do their job and are not only, people that got promotion because, they were some senior specialist and then the career path is to be manager. So just they get promotion. I would say those days long gone. And even before the promotion, for example, we make internal before the promotion for the managerial role, right? So we do internal recruitment to check if the person really know what it means to be a manager, and if the person have potential to be a manager. Because let's say it honestly, not everyone have it. And being in HR, for me, it's important to really take care holistically for the managers, starting from how they start to be manager, through how we can grow them to be better managers that will really support the company and that would really support their employees. For me, it's hard to describe the skill in one word, but I think it's crucial.
What advice would you give to someone that is just starting their career in HR?
That is a good one. I guess that, an HR is so wide field that I would advise the person to, first of all, check what exactly aspects of the HR role are interesting for the person. Because there are so many specialization in HR nowadays, that you can be anything. You can be HR data analyst and still work in HR, while you perhaps would be closer to engineering, right?
Yes, depends on how deep technically the person will go, right? If he has to work with databases, queries, Python.
Yeah. And, even comparing myself, for example, to payroll department, totally different skills. So when I would be, this fresh person in HR field, I would just maybe, let's challenge Gemini or ChatGPT to check what are the fields and how can he guide you through, what exactly these roles are about. Speak with, more experienced colleagues, which field is exactly what about, and try to understand what brought you to HR. What exactly are the duties that you really admire, and what are the aspects that you don't like and wouldn't like to do? Like for me, paperwork, not my cup of tea, let's say. And even if that person don't have much experience yet within that field, that person still have some experience from internships, from college and other places to know, let's say, maybe hazy, but somehow know what is exciting for the person and what is not, and to experiment what is the path, what's the road within an HR that that person would like to have. And to remember that it's never too late to say, oh, maybe HR wasn't the perfect solution for me.
Okay. Could move laterally as well to other areas from HR.
Yeah. I can see that, for example, like from HR to marketing. It makes total sense, right? If you like communication and you like those type of things, why not?
Or HR to, if you start working with technology, you could move to a more technological role because you develop those skills.
Yeah.
You just need to have the intellectual curiosity to follow and to find solutions for yourself, learn for yourself, and then nothing is impossible. Especially nowadays, again, with all the AI, if you put in your mind that you want to do something, even if it's far away from your area of competences, you have in your availability all the tools that you need. You just need to be driven to do that and endure.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe like currently in modern society, you can do whatever enjoy, like whatever brings you joy. And I think like this is the most important part, because we spend so much time in our work jobs, and it's never too late to, like change the road, change the path, even if it's slight move, to really, like find a job that you can thrive in.
Yep. So then, considering, Dorota, that there's no limitations for what you want to do, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
That is interesting question. I would say I really admire HR business partner field, and I guess like this is the path that I really like, and I just hope that it's hard to say if I will be still in the current company or other, but I guess that in 10 years I will be still working closely with the business, and trying to nurture its needs through my initiatives. What I was, for example, thinking of, some companies have the specialization and I don't know, let's say people programs, but I feel like it might be too far from HR business partner field that I really like. What I was also considering, maybe I will change my path slightly and I will be, like this HR data analyst. Who knows?
This is your passion by data, indeed, right? So
Yeah, like starting with data rocks, going into data analyst.
okay, beyond HR, right? Data beyond HR.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Honestly, I feel like we are currently at the spot that it's hard to guess what competencies will be needed in companies in 10 years. like what exactly we will be able to automate with all the tools that are, currently in this toddler phase, and what skills would be the skills that the companies will still need humans, let's say. So that's why I'm making, all those wild guesses, because I still feel like this kind of personal touch would be luxury. Maybe it will be even more luxury, like in 10 years. But what exactly we will be working in, looking at this another great technology evolution, we will find out.
We'll find
perhaps
out.
Pretty soon.
Maybe sooner than we think.
Yeah. And it's, like for me, it's crucial to stay up to date with all the aspects. And, like if we feel that we want to be close to business, it's like still evaluating if we're bringing the value to the business that we want to support, and how can we, like bring even more value, like in what field the value from HR will be still needed in 10 years. 10 years, it's such a, like a long horizon.
We are closer to the end, Dorota. And I always ask every guest if they could recommend me another potential guest that could have an interesting profile or work in an interesting area. Who would you like to recommend me?
Looking for someone that I could recommend. I was thinking about my manager back in my Instapage days, knowing her vast experience in different HR companies. And her name is Jacqueline Arenas.
You're not free to go yet, Dorota. You're moving the conversation to closure, but there's still one more challenge. So every guest that comes into the show, especially when they have a generalistic HR profile like yours, I always challenge them by bringing 2 HR topics and ask the person to choose one which is more important. Then I drop the other one and I bring another one, and the person makes the same comparison. And we do that for several topics. And so in theory, in the end, we will have the most important HR topic for you. And I almost know probably what will be, but let's try and to see if my guess is correct. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with talent acquisition versus training and development.
I would say training and development.
Training and development and compensation and benefits.
That is a tough one.
All of them will be tough.
I would say compensation and benefits.
Okay. Then compensation and benefits and performance management.
Performance management.
Performance management and employee relations.
Performance management.
Okay. Performance management and workforce planning, HR analytics.
Okay, so workforce planning and HR analytics.
HR analytics. Okay, so workforce planning and HR analytics versus diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Still workforce planning.
Workforce planning analytics versus HR technology and systems.
So if we speak about HR broader field, not the HR that and problems that I have in my current company, I would say HR technology.
Okay, so HR technology and systems. Last one, between HR technology and systems and engagement and retention.
Okay, engagement and retention.
So engagement and retention, Dorota, above all. Thank you for that. Thank you for being part of the show. And I hope that everything continues going well on your side in Poland at your current company. And who knows, one day we may be able to meet in person in some kind of HR context. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Bye.